Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mussar Mondays. Today, I'm really excited because we are just a few hours before the launching of our campaign. And what's interesting is that we have taken it upon ourselves at Torch to not stop any Torah study to raise money. You see, many institutions like to do these traditional, they like to do these dinners and things like that. And it takes about 6 months of preparation and preparing this and preparing that. Here we do one day a fundraiser. We raise all the money we need, hopefully, for the year. And then we just continue to teach Torah. And by the way, during that day, we don't cancel any classes. I have a class tomorrow afternoon. It's not getting canceled because of the campaign. I have class tomorrow night. It's not getting canceled. Every day we keep on learning. There's no such thing as stopping. I'm looking forward to really everyone's participation in this campaign. It's really important. It will be at givetorch.com, givetorch.com, and we're looking forward to really having everyone's participation. So I'm really excited about that. And I want to dedicate tonight's learning to a successful campaign. So here we go. We are and welcome to our friends on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you for joining us tonight. So we left off of the danger of dishonesty in business and how much we need to avoid dishonesty. Even just like a white lie is also a lie, right? Yeah. Just a rounding error is still dishonest. Okay, so one needs to be very, very careful of that. So, further proof from scripture, we are right now, for those online, we are in Mesilat Yesharim, Ways of the Upright, page 180, in the middle of the page, chapter 11, details of the trait of nikiyut, cleanliness. And the cleanliness that we're talking about in these chapters is cleanliness of not falling into the trap. You have to be very careful not to fall into a trap of, here particularly Ramchal is talking about, the author is talking about dishonesty. Any form of dishonesty is something we need to be very, very, very cautious of. Va'af Iyov heyid al atzmo ve'amar. Job too, Iyov, testified about himself and said, in tite ashuri mini hadorech ve'achar einai halach libi ubechapai davak me'um. If my steps ever veered from the proper way, or if my heart ever went after my eyes, or if anything belonging to my fellow ever clung to my hands, then then may I sow and let another eat, and may my produce be uprooted. Now contemplate the beauty of this analogy made by Job. He says, for he compares subtle theft to a sticky substance that clings to the hand of a person who inadvertently touched it. Right? You know what theft is? Right? Subtle theft. Right? It's like you get your hand stuck on a mousetrap and you can't get it off, right? You can't get it off. She'af al pi she'ein ha'adam holech lechatchila litol oso ve'nishar davek me'elav. Even though a sensible person does not go deliberately to take it, rather it became attached to his hands on its own. Sof biyadohu. At the final analysis, regardless of his intent, it is now stuck upon his hand. So while it wasn't my intention, right? Think of a Bernie Madoff, right? It wasn't his intention to steal 60 billion. His intention was a little bit. It's like, but once it gets stuck, you can't get out of it, and then it continues to grow. Kain hadavar hazeh. So it is with this case of subtle theft. She'af shelo yeh ha'adam holech v'gozel mamash. Even though a person would not go and steal outright, kashahu sheyihiyu Yodav Reikonios Mimenu Ligamri. It is difficult for his hand to be completely free of theft in the course of normal business dealings. Okay? Very, very difficult for a person to be clean, pristine of all theft. I'll give you, there are many examples that we could talk about of how a person needs to be extremely, extremely cautious in all business dealings. So I told you one day I was at the one of the local supermarket chains. I don't remember, and they had a woman come from the Department of maybe agriculture, business, I don't know what, and she was weighing an object on the scale to see if the scale is correct. Now imagine if the scale is off by 0.25, right? Where it's saying its starting point is not 0.0, its starting point is at 0.25. So it's adding an extra quarter pound to every item that you put on over there. Imagine that, right? That's pure theft, right? Small things. And the Chavetz Chaim saw it as so important that he wrote a book. We mentioned this previously. He wrote an entire book about honesty in these small little things, rounding errors. I heard a story once, someone I know, of an individual, a business that, sometimes businesses run special promotions. So you have a promotion, you know what, we want to get rid of all of our stock of our, shoes. So they say, you know what, if you feature our shoes in your front window, we will honor during these 10 days a 25% discount. Not bad, right? So what's if you put that merchandise in your front window while you're on vacation and the store is closed? Right? So you're saying I did your 10 days of promo, right? I put it in the front window, but the store was closed. So what's that going to help? Right? So but these are stories that happen. These are stories that happen in small little things. Little gimmicks that people do, try to, rounding corners and not being 100% accurate and careful and cautious for every single penny. Not to trick even one bit. Not, you know what? Right? There is no, we mentioned this last time, this is from a practical standpoint, there's no benefit that ever comes to a person from money that isn't earned honestly. There's no benefit. At the end of the day, they won't enjoy that money, they won't benefit from it, and then we wonder, someone cheats $150 and suddenly, right, so they steal it here with the right hand, and with the left hand they have to pay the plumber for a leak, $150. So you'll never benefit because you'll lose it. It doesn't stay because it doesn't have blessing. If it's earned dishonestly, it doesn't have blessing. But that's not the point that the Ramchal is making. Ramchal is making that you're making your hands sticky fingers. Okay. He says, "Amnam be'emes kol zen nimshach mimashe tachas heyos halev moshel be'inayin." But in truth, all of this difficulty is avoiding subtle theft. Results from the fact that instead of the heart ruling over the eyes, shelo yaniach liyos naim lohem es shel acherim, so as not to permit the property of others to seem appealing to them. Okay, so a person needs to guard oneself, not to look at what other people have. Right? Not to look at people. They walk into other people's homes and they start looking up and down at what they have, and would you get this and would you get that? Would you, it becomes a like, ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that. We have to be so careful of that, not to, because it starts with the eyes. The eyes look and they desire, and then the heart desires it. Okay, so he says like this. The eyes influence the heart to seek rationalizations for acquiring that which appears beautiful and desirable to them. So here I look, I see, now I desire it. If I didn't look, I would never desire it. Right? Really is an incredible thing. this is, by the way, true with all material objects, whether it be homes, whether it be fashion, whether it be cars, whether it be jewelry, whether it be computers, phones, all of these things. I guarantee you that if you never saw a commercial about the new iPhone or never read an article about it, you'd be perfectly fine with the iPhone 1. Right? But because we are pulled after our desires, so what happens? We have to I have to get the new one. And even if I have to wait a week online, right, I'm going to get the new one because I need it. Because without it, you see, it really is a remarkable thing. You know how much technology is in that iPhone 1? Right? Yeah, it could be that it's incomparable to the iPhone 10. I don't know where they're holding. 10, 11? 11. So, yeah, I'm not a big iPhone guy. But either way, so I desire it because now there's these advertisements. You see it, oh, it can do this, it can do that. I got to have it. And today it's almost like a statement. You have to have the Apple Watch and you have to have the this. It becomes this. If people just didn't look, what would happen? They'd be very happy. But when I don't get the things that I want to get, that I saw, right? So if I didn't look, it would never bother me. The problem is I look, and that's what bothers me. Right? My heart desires it. So now I've shared the story before. I'll share it again because I think it's such an important lesson. So my brother, this is going back 1988. My brother, 1988, was bar mitzvah. And before his bar mitzvah, a couple of months before his bar mitzvah, maybe 6 months or 5 months before his bar mitzvah, several months. So my brother went with my father to a relative's bar mitzvah, and it was relatively simple, a very simple bar mitzvah. So my brother sort of, comments to my father, my bar mitzvah is going to be nicer than that, right? My father said, why? He says, because you can afford it. My father was doing okay at the time. He can afford that. So my father said, no. You can have the exact same bar mitzvah. He says, well, what? Why? Why not? He says, I'll tell you why. Because although I can afford it, can all the kids in your class afford it? The kids in your class are going to come home and they're going to say, I want a bar mitzvah exactly like he had. And the father's not going to want to disappoint his child. And disappoint that child to the point where, think about it. It's the only bar mitzvah he'll ever have. So I want him to be happy. But what's if he can't afford it? He'll borrow money he can't return. Or he'll still be dishonest so that he can earn that money. And then who's going to be held accountable for that? My father said, I'll be accountable for that. I'm going to be held accountable for putting that desired temptation into someone else. Which is why my father also never bought a Lincoln Town Car. He loved the Lincoln Town Car. Right? Think about it, 1985, 86, 87. Those are like that was it. That was it, right? But my father never bought it. And the reason why he didn't buy it, was because he didn't want other people to be jealous and have to, we got to one up them now. So he always kept his, simple. Simple. So it doesn't have to be, doesn't have to poke anyone's eyes out. And also there's another side point to it. It doesn't really bring blessing when people are jealous, when people are, my father did buy a brand new car once, and I had an uncle visit from Israel. He went to borrow the car for a few minutes to go run an errand. And it's a brand new car, it's like a day old, okay? So of course you say, just be careful, right? Be careful, it's a new car. He comes back and he had punched out by mistake, of course, the right blinker light, right? And it's like you have a Band-Aid right here, it's like, right? So my father never changed it. Till the day my father sold that car, that broken light was there. You know why? It doesn't need to be perfect. Now nobody's going to be jealous of the car. Right? Just fix the light. No, not going to fix the light. And I took a little bit after that. I hope I did a fair job. But when I moved back from Israel, right after Zahav and I got married, we moved to Israel. And then 3 years later, we moved back. Our first residence was in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and then we lived here in Houston, thank God, for the past 15 years. And I was there only for 10 months, almost. And so the first car I was looking to buy, I found a Mesilat. I found like a great deal, but it wasn't a Toyota Camry that I was looking for. It was a Lexus. You know, a Lexus, a luxury car. It's but it drove like a brand new car. It was from an old lady in South Jersey. It drove like a brand new. At 35,000 miles, it was 9 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
Right, and it was at the price range that I was looking to pay for. It was a steal, but it's still a Lexus. Now the whole right side of the car, I guess she ran into some type of pole, and both doors were indented. Both doors were indented, including part of the piece that goes around the door, the wheel. You know that it was bent out like that. And I had people tell me, Rabbi, can you please do me a favor? Take it to my mechanic. I will pay for it. I just can't see that scratch, that dent in the car all the way through the whole right side. I said, no. Till the day I get rid of this car, it's going to be there. Right? Now nobody has any questions. Oh, the Rabbi's driving around. Just look at the side of his car. You remember it? You remember that?
I do.
Right?
Yeah.
It was really like an eyesore. You know, it's just like it was a great car. Everything else looked great. If you looked on the other side, you didn't see any problem. Right? Just close your right eye and everything was fine. But the idea is that we don't need to make other people jealous either. And I think it's another point that Ramchal doesn't really mention here. He's more talking about not falling into a state of dishonesty. But additional to that is not to do things that will cause other people to be jealous, then want, perhaps even then steal, because they want to live up to certain standards. And I think you're a party planner, right? Right? You know that there's how much people paying now for bar bat mitzvahs? It's like $100,000, $200,000, right? For a bar bat mitzvah. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong, right? Where do we get such ideas, such concepts?
That's ridiculous.
Right? And all of the performances that go along with it, all this, where does it come from? It becomes from someone who wanted to do something extravagant. Now everybody feels they need to live up to the Steins, right? I'm not picking a family, I'm just saying it's like not the Jones, right? It's the Steins, right? So Friedman's, living up to the Friedmans, right? So Hayinayim moshchim asalev, the eyes influence the heart. Levakesh heter mamash nir lehem yofa v'nechma, to seek rationalizations for acquiring that which appears beautiful and desirable to them. Al kain amar Eov shehu lo chen asa. Job therefore declares that he did not do so. V'lo halach libo achar inav, and his heart did not follow his eyes. Al kain lo davak b'kafov me'um. And that is why nothing belonging to others clung to his hands. Didn't want to touch anything that's not his. I tell my children all the time, don't borrow anything from your friends. Don't borrow their phone. Don't borrow their ball. Don't borrow their bicycles. I don't want the responsibility of you losing it, of it breaking on my watch. I don't want it, right? You need something, we'll figure out if we can afford it, we'll get it. I don't want you borrowing things. Because and then what's if you forget it? You forget whose it is. And then I had this once. It's a real funny story. One of the things that I, as a father, hate buying for my children, and my mother hated the same thing, was buying gloves. Now in Houston, thank God we don't need it as much. But in New York, gloves, if you don't have gloves, you can get frostbite. It's really cold. You got to wear gloves. So I would buy gloves, and they'd always get lost. My mother would go nuts. I just bought you gloves last week, right? I just bought you gloves. So my mother did something very smart. Is that she undid the gloves inside out, and she wrote our name in it, okay? And then rolled it back, and now that's it. So, of course, I went to a friend's house, and voila, I come home with no gloves, right? I have no idea where I left it. Did I leave it at school? I have no idea. I can't even remember where I was 20 minutes ago. How am I supposed to track down where I lost the gloves?
Yeah.
Okay, but a few days later, I see a friend of mine in school with the gloves that look identical to the ones I had. So I said, hey, did I maybe leave that in your house? He says, no, my mother bought them from me yesterday. So I said, no problem. Just give me the gloves a second. I roll them up, and Wolbe right there inside. So he's a smart, right? But imagine if someone would do that, right? If that happened, you're walking around with a scarf, right, that someone left at your house, you think you found it in your closet. How am I supposed to know when I bought this? I could have bought this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? Now, is there maybe that the owner gave up ownership on it because they say, oh, it's lost, what can I do? And if someone does that, so there's the Talmud talks about they're giving up their ownership for it. That's a different story. But still, we have to be so careful not to have sticky fingers, right? I try to tell my children, we don't do this frequently, but if we were to go to a restaurant, right, I tell them, the candies aren't there for you to have candies for the next year, right? When you leave, you take one candy, right, and that's it. Or toothpicks. Ooh, I might be stuck in traffic in 6 months from now, and I have a whole stash of 300 toothpicks that I took off from the restaurant when I was there, right? That's not, I say, take one. That's it, right? We have to be so careful. These small things could be a little dust of theft. A little dust of theft. A little, right? And we have to be very, very careful of that.
Rabbi?
Yes.
You pronounced L-Y-O-V, Job?
I-Y-O-V. Eov is Job. Eov in Hebrew, Job in English.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Right. So, Job, by the way, some commentaries give explanations to the whole book of Job, and many actually say that it's actually referring to Moses. Mm-hmm. We said this Sunday, right? But you think about it, Moses was very, very, very careful not to touch anything that wasn't his, right? In fact, God rewarded Moses, right? Moses didn't take any of the loot from Egypt, not loot of what the Egyptians gave them. He didn't get anything, right? He didn't take anything. Why? What was he busy with? When they were leaving Egypt, right? All the Jews are getting their stuff, they're getting out, right? They're loading up those donkeys. Where's Moses during this time? Exactly. The Jewish people made a promise to Joseph that his remains will be buried in the land of Israel. So Moses said a special verse, and that verse lifted up the bones from under the sea, and his bones floated up, right? And he took those bones and brought them with him. Additionally, he also took the special wood that was going to be needed for the temple, for the tabernacle that's built in these week's Torah portions that we're talking the next few weeks. So he, all of that, right? Moses was collecting. Everyone else is worrying about they want to get more gold, more silver, more diamonds, more this, more that. Yeah, here Moses is busy with that. So what does God reward him? When Moshe was chiseling out the second set of tablets, it was what type of stone?
Sapphire.
Sapphire, correct. And God says, all of the chiseled pieces, that's your portion, that you can keep. Right? Because you lost out when you were busy doing your duties in Egypt. You don't lose out with God. I'm giving it to you a different way. You can get these special sapphires. The Midrash actually says that the value of those sapphires was far greater than everyone else's. But the problem is, there are two different ways that people can do business. There are many different ways, but two particularly different ways. You have a partnership with someone, and they say, it's funny because you can tell a lot of someone's character, of someone's faith, and how they deal in business. And some people in business, they go, okay, this is your share of the deal, and this is mine, right? I'm locking in mine, and there's no negotiation about this. All right, so you're not happy with your part? I don't care. I got mine. But there's another way to do business. Is you say, here's your share. Are you happy with this? Do you think that it was fair and everything? I think I should have gotten a little bit. So take a little bit more. It's fine. Right? Take a little bit more. And then, when everyone is satisfied, you get what you get. You'll never lose out with honesty. Ever. You will never, ever lose out with honesty. Right? The truth will always stand. And the falsehood will never stand. Okay? Ramchal elaborates on one of the prohibitions he listed above to illustrate how easy it is to be guilty of subtle forms of theft. He says, consider, if you will, regarding the subject of financial wrongings. Ona'ah. Kama nakel hula adam lihitpatot v'likashel. How easy it is for a person to be enticed and to stumble in this matter. Ka'asher l'chora yera'elo. This can occur when at first glance it seems to him that it is appropriate to try and enhance his merchandise in the eyes of his people who might buy it. And to profit from the labor of his hands. By encouraging a potential buyer to agree to buy it from him. People apply to all these practices what our sages say approvingly in certain contexts. There are people who are industrious and profit thereby. And what the verse states approvingly in certain contexts, the yad charutzim ta'ashir, the hand of the diligent will bring prosperity. They thus assume that by making their merchandise seem attractive, they are adopting a worthy business practice. Amnam, however, im lo yidaktek v'yishkol masav harbe, while business acumen and diligence can indeed be positive, if one does not scrupulously examine and weigh his actions, hine tachas chita yetze choach. Right? Instead of wheat, thorns will emerge. Ki ya'avor ba'avon ha'ona'ah, for he will cross the line of propriety and transgress the sin of financial wronging. Asher huzharnu aleha v'losonu ishas amiso, about which we have been warned in the Torah, Leviticus 25:17. Each of you shall not aggrieve his fellow. Okay, so let's think for a second what that means. Right? You know those shops, and I'm not being accusatory, okay, but you know those little shops that you have in the malls that you try to avoid because they're a bunch of Israeli hawks, right?
No,
Who are gonna,
in the center,
yeah, the centers, those kiosks,
Yeah.
where they're gonna try to sell you a cell phone, a cell phone case, or a helicopter, or cosmetics,
hand
right?
lotion. Yeah.
Right, and they, right now, it's very nice that they're selling product. It's a great thing. But what happens if they tell you, listen, I'm not going anywhere. If you're not happy with the product, you can come back. That's one thing. But all sales are final sales. And then all I need to do is convince you that this is the best product in the world, right? Lie through my teeth. I'm not saying that they do this. I'm saying, but think of hypothetically, if one were to do such a thing, and then you buy it, you come home and you see that it's inferior quality, right? So I tricked you. Is that theft? That's theft.
Sure.
Now I can tell you, I didn't give you premium quality. I gave you okay quality. Well, you charged a premium price. So many people think that for the sake of business, anything is okay. I can sell you anything as long as it's in the name of business. Says the Torah, no, you can't do that. The Torah says, that's what we bring over here in the verse, each of you shall not aggrieve his fellow. Actually, the Gemara interprets this verse, if you look at the commentary on the bottom, this verse as referring to verbal ona'ah, hurtful speech, the prohibition against financial ona'ah having been stated in an earlier verse. However, numerous commentators understand that the simple meaning of the verse refers to the same ona'ah mentioned earlier, financial deceit, and that the Gemara, the Talmud, means, and what the Talmud means, is that since the Torah repeats the prohibition here, it means to extend the prohibition even to verbal ona'ah. I give you bad advice. I give you bad counsel. I'll give you an example. Okay? So we have Alex. hypothetically, if there was an Alex who was a realtor, okay? So, like, hypothetically speaking, right? By the way, if anyone needs a real realtor, I know someone, Alex, who's a really fantastic guy right here. So, you have your website. I'll put it here on the video. Okay, fine. So what happens is like this. So imagine, the seller comes over to Alex and says, Alex, I got to sell this house quickly. If you sell this house for me, I'll give you double the commission. Instead of what your normal commission is, I'll give you double the commission. Wow, that's a lot of money on $1 million house. That's a fortune of money. Mm-hmm. So he says, you know what I'll do? So he goes to somebody and says, this is the best house. I'm telling you, this is it. Location, this is this and that. And you leave out one fact, that they're about to build a skyscraper right next door, right? And his property is going to drop like a rock, right? You leave out that point. He's like, wow, it's really incredible, such a great price. Let me do this, no problem. You draw up the documents. In 2 weeks, you'll be in the house. You'll be approved by the bank right away. And you just leave out important information. You leave out pertinent information. So now what happens? That's a form of ona'ah. Well, I made my sale, and even if it's not doubled commission, even if it's just one commission, you just leave out some information that's critical to someone's decision-making process. That's a form of theft. Right? So it's something to think about. It's very important for us to understand the challenge of honesty, like 100% honesty. How many people are guilty of, again, we're not the judges, the Almighty is, but how many are guilty of just leaving out 2 points? I'll just leave it out. I won't mention it, so that my friend, I can help them. I mean, just look at federal government. The whole place is one big racket, right? It's unbelievable. You wouldn't manage your own your own budget, your personal, household budget, the way they run it in government, right? But they'll just continue taxing you. So But that's also that's misappropriation of community funds. It's a very, very severe responsibility, right? I'll give you one thing that really scared me when I was a child, is that they say this is not a joke, by the way. Okay, it's not only when I'm a child, but it says that if you steal and you don't pay it back, you come back to this world to pay it back. You're gonna have to come back to this world. Right? It's a very terrifying thing. So I made it my business that if any of the institutions I've ever learned in solicit me for any donation, I always give them a donation. And I have it in mind that if I damage the property of the institution, now imagine you're sitting by your desk in class. Now, I was not paying attention, I promise, when they were teaching, right? In any yeshiva I was in, okay? I was not paying attention. So at best, I'd be doodling on my desk, okay? And then, you can scratch and ruin the desk, right? It's property, it's possession. You ruin a book of the school, right? You break a chair, you ruin the table, you scratch the wall. That is theft of the institution. It's theft. I have to come back to this world, God forbid, right? Be reincarnated to pay back that 30 cents to the school, right? I would hate to come back as a quarter, right? So it's a serious thing. It's a serious thing. Theft is a very, very serious thing. It's one of those things that the Torah warns us about time and again, of the dangers of dishonesty, of cheating, of rounding errors. It's very, very important. So I should.
One must also note that.
Where are we on
Fifth
top?
line from the bottom.
Okay, here we go. Thank you. And one must also note that although the verse specifies his fellow, which typically means a Jew, right, which could construed to mean a fellow Jew, the sages of Blessed Memory stated clearly that it is prohibited even to deceive a non-Jew, right? Even right, because the Torah uses certain terminologies, you could understand that maybe this is referring to only to a Jew. No, it's not only to a Jew; it's to anyone, any human being. You can't cheat. Ukra ksiv, as the verse states, she'eris Yisrael lo yasu avlo va'al yidabru kazav v'lo yimatze b'fihem loshon tarmis. Scripture states as follows: the remnant of Israel will not commit corruption; they will not speak falsehood, and a deceitful tongue will not be found in their mouth. That doesn't have to do with anyone who. It's not dependent on who we're cheating. It's regardless who we're cheating. It's regardless. The fact that a person himself is not being truthful is what the Torah is talking about. She'eris Yisrael lo yasu avla, right? The remnant of Israel, which is us, the people of Israel, will not commit corruption. That's what we need to be careful about. Other examples of common practices that the sages consider deceitful: V'chein amru ein miparkesin es hakelim hayishanim sheyero kachadoshim. The sages likewise said that sellers should not spruce up old utensils to make them look new. Ve'ein ma'arvim peiros bepeiros afilu chadoshim b'chadoshim. Similarly, if sellers represent produce as coming from a specific field, they may not mix produce from that field with produce from another field and sell the mixture, even if they are mixing fresh produce with fresh produce. You can't say, you know what, by the way, you know something very interesting? Do you know that by law, if a beverage has 97% orange juice, and the other 3% is whatever, okay? They can write 100% juice. Right? The other 3%, they can put whatever they want, as long as it's 97%. Right? You know they write, though, they're 100% juice. Right? What does that mean? You know what the last 3% is? No idea. I probably don't want to know. Right? But you don't, right? But imagine you go to the supermarket, you go to Whole Foods, right? Whole Foods, right? Yeah, for sure. And they say, here are special Mexican avocados, okay? But the Mexican avocados happen to be mixed, 60-40. 60% Mexican, but 40% are from Cleveland, Ohio, or wherever, Chicago, whatever, right? So you think, right, they say, they could justify saying the majority is from Mexico, so it's Mexican. But is it true? It's not true.
But Rabbi, here's a question.
Yes.
You were supposed to disclose every single thing you know about this product? That's hard.
Yeah.
Because people puff their products.
Is that honest? Is that honest?
Well, people, is that honest? It matters what they're talking about.
Right. So.
I mean, people spruce up. Let's say you're selling dishes or something. You're going to make those dishes nice. I mean,
right.
that wouldn't be really stealing from me.
It's funny because today they actually, for furniture, they make it look old.
Well,
right, so it's a brand new. It's
a brand new old.
Right. So they take brand new furniture and make it look old, so it's antique looking, brand new furniture.
I'll tell you why I ask you that question.
Yes, let me hear.
Because I'm in you know what business I'm in, right? And people ask me all the time what the rate is. All right. Now I don't lie. I tell them exactly. We have people in the company that I work for say, well, we don't really disclose rates. It's based on you got to pay 48 payments at X. And all kinds of stuff. The cash flow rate, which means nothing, is 6% when it's really 30%. But how much of that disclosure do people need to make when they're doing business dealings with the public?
So I think that everything that would be part of their decision-making process needs to be disclosed. It needs to be disclosed whether or not, right? No one wants to get ripped off on a deal. right? I believe.
But
Anybody
I
here want to
also
get
believe that there are certain credits that know that they're not going to get the best rate there is because of the way their credit profile is.
Okay.
So, you know,
Well,
and then
that's
after,
where you can qualify, you know. It could be this rate if you
well,
meet this.
but then after 2 years of signing a contract and paying after 2 years, and they complain and say that rate's too high. We
Right.
get that all the time. The guy's paying and then after 2 years he says, "Well, how come I paid this rate?"
Right.
Even though he signed the contract and
Right.
he knows.
Look,
what he paid.
but it has to be honest. In the mortgage, they have now mortgage disclosure documents
Truth
that
in
need
lending.
to be right, and you need to have. It's one page which basically tells you, you think you're paying for this house $100,000. Really, you'll be paying with this mortgage probably $280,000, right? Because of all the interest and because of this, and it's very important that there be honesty and that it be disclosed. And only 3 days later, you will let it close on the house because people have to have ample time to review it, to look at it, and to say, yes, I understand, but I'm doing this anyway. And that's a very serious thing. Okay. Okay, other examples. So what did we say? So that you're not allowed to even mix the fruits. Afilu sa'ab dinar, afilu yafet dinar utrisis lo ya'arev yimkerem sa'ab dinar. Sifri adds that even if the first produce is worth a sa'ah for a dinar, and the second produce is worth more, a sa'ah for a dinar and a trisis, one may not mix the two and sell them even at the lower rate, at the lower price of a sa'ah for a dinar. Kol ose ele, kol ose avel. Sifri concludes by commenting on the verse, anyone who commits these acts of deceit, anyone who acts corruptly. Korui chamisha shemos, a deceitful person is called 5 pejoratives. Aval, sanui, mishukot, cherim, and toeva. Corrupt, hated, disgusting, banned, and an abomination. These are 5 different names that are for someone who uses deceit. Someone who uses deceit in what they do. So basically, using these forms of trickery, using these forms of, let's call it, withholding information that is pertinent to people's decision-making process. Or switching things off, right? Yeah, I can give you, there are many examples. There are many examples, and many times you won't even know this. So imagine you call up a vendor who's providing you, you have, right, certain garments or certain products. You say, listen, I want you to give me the best you have. You go, right, give me the best you have. So, oh, the best I have, no problem. I'll send you a price for it. And now what they do is they really give you the mediocre product at the expensive rate. So you think you're getting expensive. I mean, you're getting the best product. You know, you're not. Right? That's theft. What are you talking about? I gave you a product. Okay, so it wasn't the executive package. It was the cheap one. For I charged you more, but you paid for it, right? You paid this one, but you were dishonest in the information you were giving me in making my decision.
Yeah.
Right? So these are things that are, like Ramchal tells us, Dvarim shebechol yom. These happen every day. It happens every day, and that's why he's putting such an emphasis how careful we need to be. Ode is 184 on top. Ode Amru Zuchron LaRocha, the sages of blessed memory further stated, Kol hagozel es chavera afilu shava pruta ki'ilu notel nafsho meno. If anyone steals from his fellow even a pruta's worth, it is as if he took his soul from him. Harelecha chomer ha'avon hazeh afilu b'shir muat. Here you have a clear demonstration of the severity of this sin of stealing, even in regard to stealing a small amount. It's a nothing amount. What is it? It's nothing. such a minute amount. It's irrelevant, right? It's not. Amru od ein hageshamim ne'atzorim ela ba'avon gazel. Therefore, our sages tell us that rain is withheld only because of the sin of theft. Because of the sin of theft, rain is withheld. The od amru, they said even further. Kupa meleya avonos mi mekatrek berosh kulam. If a person has a container full of sins, which one of them accuses him first? Which one of those sins accuse first? Theft. Gezel. Vidora mabulon nechtam gzardinam ella al hagazel. Moreover, the generation of the flood, although they committed many heinous crimes, their decree of punishment was sealed only because of theft. So here what the Ramchal is telling us, the danger of theft, particularly because it is so easy to fall into a trap of theft. It is. I have so many examples, some of which I can't say on the air here, right? But things that really are deceit in the greatest way, and people fall for it because they're innocent, trusting people, right? And it could be fake, it could be wrong, it could be, and it's a very, very terrible thing. So we're going to stop here. I want to thank you all so much for joining us for the first part of the Monday night Mussar Mondays. The second part will begin shortly. We'll have a 5-minute break, and we will continue with the portion of the spies, right, that we're holding in our in-depth Torah study. My dear friends, just a quick reminder that tomorrow is our campaign for Torch, to support Torch. It's the only day a year that we'll be asking you for your support. We appreciate all the contributions we can get. The campaign will begin at 11 o'clock in the morning. GiveTorch.com. Please, thank you. Have a terrific evening, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you live here in class. No classes are canceled due to any circumstance.